I took 30 million to seduce the golden boy of the capital's elite and make him break his vows. The night I left a forged pregnancy report in his room. Then I got kidnapped and disappeared without a trace. The next time we met, the golden boy had become a powerful figure in the capital. He pointed a gun at my uncle's chin and asked, "Where is she?" Chapter 1. Miriam, your uncle is here again, my coworker whispered as she passed by. I frowned, picked up a tray of drinks, and headed over. The moment I reached the door, something felt off. It was too quiet. I pushed the door open a crack. The small private room was filled with men in black suits. My Uncle Ethan and his lackeys were huddled on the couch like scared little chickens, staring in terror at the dark figure standing with his back to them. I was about to step in to defuse the situation when I heard the chilling sound of a gun being cocked. The man turned around. A gun barrel was pressed to Ethan's chin. Where is she? Chapter 2. My heart almost stopped for a few seconds. Fragments of memories flashed before my eyes. A gentle boy in the lush mountains, releasing a bird with a soft smile. A serene boy under the dim candlelight, quietly copying scriptures. A fragile boy in a torrential downpour, his eyes swimming with suppressed desire. All those memories converged on the face before me, cold, stern, and filled with menace. Sam, I don't know this Celine you're talking about. I swear I've never even heard of her. This person doesn't exist. You could kill me, and I still couldn't hand her over. Ethan's voice trembled so much it could have rattled a sieve. My fingertips turned pale as I clutched the tray, keeping my head down as I prepared to slip away. Miriam, what are you standing there for? The manager suddenly appeared and pushed the door open. Hurry up, Anne. He froze mid-sentence as he took in the scene inside the room. Sorry for the interruption, he said hastily, pulling me back. I wanted to bury my head in the tray and get out of there as quickly as possible. Stop. Sam's voice rang out, directing itself at me. You. Turn around. Chapter 3. Sam. She's just a new hire and doesn't know any better. The manager quickly interjected. Please, don't hold it against her. I'll personally bring you the drinks. He took the tray from my hands, giving me a hard nudge with his elbow. I handed over the tray and bolted. It wasn't until I reached the main hall that I finally exhaled in relief. The news of Sam's visit had already spread. Can you believe it? Young Master Sam came to a place like this. Is he looking for a girl? TSK. The golden boy stepping off his pedestal. 3 years ago, he was still at the temple, and wouldn't even touch meat or alcohol. Didn't he just get engaged? Won't Miss Lisa throw a fit? Throw a fit? Over what? Sam's family has connections on both sides of the law. The man alone is practically half the capital's power. If he wants to have fun, who's going to stop him? Does she even have the right to complain? I ignored the gossip, huddled under the bar, and frantically sent a message. What the hell is going on? He's here looking for me. Chapter 4. As the crowd said, 3 years ago, Sam was like a devoted monk, untouched by worldly desires. He wanted no family inheritance, no relatives, and chose to live a secluded life in the monastery. Back then, using the name Celine, I committed a grave sin. I used every possible means to pull that pure young man into the mundane world. When he finally gave up his convictions, deciding to live an ordinary life with me, I followed the plan, giving him the final blow. During those days, he even purchased property abroad, just waiting for the visa to come through so he could take me away. The night before we were supposed to leave the mountains, he went to copy one last scripture. I kissed his eyes and said cheerfully, "When you come back, I have a surprise for you." Then, I did 3 things. I placed a fake pregnancy report under his pillow. I left a ransom letter in my room, supposedly from kidnappers, and I sent a voice message to his phone, my voice hoarse from pretend tears. Sam, save me! Then I disappeared without a trace. Of course, all of this was fake. My encounter with him was fake. My feelings for him were fake. The pregnancy was fake. And being kidnapped was fake. Sam's family wanted their eldest son to return and take up responsibilities, and I wanted the 30 million yuan his family promised. Chapter 5. Miriam, I'm sorry. I didn't know your uncle had crossed the wrong people this time. My colleague, who had just tipped me off, came to apologize. I just saw the manager come out of the office. His face was pale. Are you okay? I shook my head and continued my work, but when my shift ended, I deliberately lingered. I was the last one to leave the bar. Sure enough, a Maybach was waiting outside. Sam's profile was reflected in the car window, as cold and distant as an urban myth hidden in the city. My fingernails dug into my palms, and I took a deep breath before obediently getting into the car. The familiar scent of sandalwood filled the air, but Sam was no longer the Sam I knew. He was the distinguished superior. From the strands of his hair to his fingernails, he exuded an aura of absolute authority. He leaned against the seat, studying me inch by inch. He said nothing. I was already prepared, so I spoke up first. Mr. Sam, you have the wrong person. As soon as I spoke, a dark glint flashed in Sam's eyes. Celine is my sister, I said, pulling out my wallet and extracting a photo. It was a photo of me and Celine. Though we're identical twins, there are still slight differences between us. I looked up, revealing my clear eyes. My sister once told me that you liked the teardrop mole beneath her eye the most. Chapter 6. From the beginning, I approached Sam under the identity of Celine, because she and Sam had a brief connection during their student days. Before Sam went to the mountains for seclusion, the only thing he instructed the butler to do was to send a box of books to Celine. His family believed that Sam had special feelings for Celine. Using her identity had a better chance of success. Before approaching Sam, I specifically trained my voice. From the first sentence I spoke to him, I didn't use my own voice. I also practiced countless times drawing the teardrop mole at the corner of her eye. I made sure I could draw that spot in the same place every day. Sam's hand gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles defined, veins bulging. What about her? Naturally, he was asking about Celine. I lowered my gaze, dead. The pressure in the car dropped rapidly. Before I could lift my eyes, something cold was already pressed against my forehead. Say that again. Chapter 7. It is said that now, in Beijing circles, the name Sam instills fear. The monk has shed his pure and detached exterior, becoming ruthless and decisive. My palms were almost pierced by my own nails, my voice trembling slightly. Haven't you investigated? After you paid the ransom, my sister was diagnosed with cancer and went abroad. In less than a year, she died in San Francisco. I pulled out my phone. I still have her death certificate on my phone. Do you want to see it, sir? The air fell silent. The coldness in Sam's hand softened a bit. Lift your head. Look at me. My eyelids trembled slightly. I lifted my gaze, meeting his dark eyes. Sam also looked into my eyes. His expression grew colder inch by inch. Get out. I felt as if I had been granted a reprieve. Chapter 8. Back home. I drank 2 large glasses of water to calm myself. The first thing I did was search for recent international flights. Amanda's call came just as I had closed the page. Miriam, did he really come looking for you? What now? You should run. Your visa. I'm not running. I tossed the passport aside. Running now would only raise his suspicions. Then, he can't find out. The plan back then was perfect. With Sam's family backing me and Celine's cooperation, he could only find out that everything I said was true. Besides, Celine really did die in San Francisco. I didn't lie to him. So what are you going to do next? Sam these years, he's a bit crazy. I always feel like he won't give up that easily. I'll do what I have to do, as long as I don't admit it. Who can say that I was the one back then? I'll continue as usual, working at an advertising agency by day, bartending at night. I've always been short on money. Very short. Sam, as expected, didn't give up easily. Almost every day, that Maybach followed me. I didn't need to put much effort into dealing with him. When I was with him, my name wasn't mine, my voice wasn't mine, and my personality wasn't mine. He likes girls who are soft and fragrant like jasmine. When they smile, they seem to carry the light of the world. That was Celine, not me. Chapter 9. In at most a month, he'll lose interest in me. I told Amanda, Sam isn't someone who only cares about appearances. Only I know how much effort it took to bring him down back then. Once he realizes that the soul beneath this shell isn't the one he loves, he'll treat me like a stranger. In reality, it took just half a month before that Maybach stopped following me. I let out a long sigh of relief. Life returned to normal. The next time I saw Sam was again at the bar. That night, there was a troublesome customer. Usually, if something was even slightly off, the manager would step in to handle it. But that day, he was on leave. Just as the customer's hand was about to touch the back of my hand, he was kicked to the ground. In the blink of an eye, he was dragged out by two men in black suits. The noise of the bar couldn't cover his screams. The remaining two men reached out to me. Miss Miriam, please. Chapter 10. Sam sat on the wide sofa, his shirt buttoned up to his neck, cufflinks perfectly in place. Moonlight poured down. He looked as pure as an untouchable deity. I kept my head down, knowing what had displeased him. He probably couldn't allow the face of the person he once loved to mix with the vulgarity of such a place. Are you short on money? Sam picked up a glass of wine. In the past, he never touched alcohol. I lowered my gaze. You must have already investigated me, sir, and know my situation. Celine and I are identical twins, but we didn't grow up together. I got lost when I was very young. My mother worried herself sick and passed away early. My father carried the burden alone for 10 years but didn't live to see me found. I have no family and no proper education. Trying to survive in the city isn't easy. Sam looked at me, his gaze deep. I met his eyes calmly. He should be able to clearly see the difference between me and Celine by now. Celine received a good education. My parents gave her all the love they would have given me as well. They raised her to be gentle, kind, bright, and pure. He doesn't know how hard I worked to pretend to be her. Those books he sent her, I studied them for 3 months just to barely grasp the basics. The letters he wrote to her, I had to go through them sentence by sentence with reference materials to fully understand them. If it bothers you, sir, I'll find another job. The truth is, the manager here is very good, and my colleagues get along well. I'm not that willing to quit, but I also don't want to keep getting entangled with Sam. Sam didn't reply, perhaps because he had just had a glass of wine. His gaze was a little hazy. The corners of his eyes had a touch of red. Suddenly, I remembered our first time. He looked just like this. His usually clear eyes now deep and wavering, struggling between emotions. I gently touched the corner of his eyes. An intense shade of red, followed by an overwhelming wave of heat. My heart started to race inexplicably, and I stood up. I turned to leave. 300,000. Sam suddenly spoke. I stopped. Aren't you short on money? Sam continued. Pretend to be Celine. 300,000 a month. I frowned and walked quickly towards the door. 3 million. My steps quickened. 30 million. I couldn't move any further. The room was too quiet. The sound of Sam setting down his glass was crystal clear. Then, the rustling of clothes. I turned around. He had already unbuttoned his collar and set his watch aside. Come here. He leaned back on the sofa, from his throat to his chest. Decadent and enticing. Kiss me. Chapter 11. The lighting in the private room was already dim. Sam only turned on a very faint little lamp. Blending with the moonlight, it suddenly became a color that was extremely suggestive. I sat by his side. My heart was pounding irregularly. He seemed determined not to move, so I had to lean in. Just a kiss. We've done this countless times before. I could almost remember the curve of the muscles under his shirt, the warmth of his skin. My sweaty hand grabbed his collar, and he leaned down, his gaze falling on my face. Familiar, yet strange. Our breaths mingled, and he held my waist. The heat from his palm almost burned the air between us. I moved a little closer. In his eyes, I could see my reflection clearly, equally familiar, equally strange. Sorry, I turned my face away. Give me some time to prepare. Sam almost immediately pushed me away. He stood up abruptly and left in large strides. Chapter 12. I became Celine again. Even though I wasn't as obedient, Sam still transferred 30 million to me that night. The next day, I moved out of the rundown rental apartment and rented a place near Sam's family group headquarters. However, Sam wasn't satisfied with that apartment. He directly took me to his villa. Sir, keeping a canary at home isn't appropriate. Is it? I sat in the car, reluctant to go in. Sam turned his head. She even calls me Sam. I froze. Sam stared at me for a few seconds, then got out of the car on his own. I had no choice but to follow. There was only one maid in the villa, and she was extremely surprised to see me, standing there with her mouth open for a long moment without making a sound. Miss Miriam. Sam dropped those words and went upstairs with the suitcase. Unlike the maid's astonishment, the room looked as if it had been prepared long ago. I felt a pang of emotion just looking at it. From when I deliberately approached Sam to when I finally left, it had been over a year. We had a lot of memories together. The house we built with branches. The star lamps we made from grass vines. The tea set we molded from clay. Even the leaves we picked up in the mountains. He had brought them all into the room. I quickly averted my eyes. Is this Mr. Miriam's room? Sam didn't respond, only pushed the suitcase into the closet. You can't expect a benefactor to fawn over a canary. I didn't mind his attitude and quietly took my clothes to the bathroom. Before leaving, I hesitated for a long time but ended up drawing that teardrop mole at the corner of my eye. However, Sam was no longer in the room. I checked my phone, and he had sent me a message. Something came up. Go to sleep first. I let out a sigh of relief. Just like that day at the bar. I couldn't bring myself to kiss him no matter what. Perhaps I wasn't ready to have an intimate relationship with Sam under the identity of Miriam. All night, Sam didn't come, but I still didn't sleep well. At 3 in the morning, I woke up once. I got up and turned on that star lamp. I still remember making it because Sam said the stars on the mountaintop were beautiful. So I wove it for him. I specifically chose thorny vines and then, in front of him, accidentally showed my hands covered in wounds. As expected, he couldn't just sit by, frowned, and started weaving it with me. It was also under this light that I kissed him for the first time. How envious. Sam treasures those things so much, things that are related to me, but, at the same time, it has nothing to do with me. In reality, I had long been used to doing hard labor. My hands were not that delicate. To avoid revealing any inconsistencies, before going up the mountain, I specifically did months of care. Now, they have returned to their original state. I simply borrowed a part of Celine's life. Chapter 13. Being Sam's canary is actually quite easy. Aside from quitting my part-time job at the bar and moving into his house, my life hasn't changed much. Sam doesn't stay in the same room as me. It seems that he's always been disciplined, knowing that I'm not the real person. He never intended to develop a further relationship with me. I tried drawing the teardrop mole a few times, but he didn't seem to care much. So, I stopped drawing it. Every day, I just eat meals with him, and when he works, I sit by and read books. He even drives me to and from work. There's hardly a better job than this, except for the occasional times when I find him sitting by my bed in the middle of the night, giving me a bit of a scare. Maybe I resemble Celine more when I'm asleep, so he chooses to come at night to see my face and think of her? Besides that, Amanda was right. His temper isn't exactly good nowadays. You could say it's unpredictable. Like now, he came during lunch to take me out to eat. I ordered according to Celine's preferences, and suddenly he wasn't happy. I asked what you wanted to eat. He emphasized the word you. His expression turned cold, and the waiter beside us was so frightened that they didn't dare to breathe. I had no choice but to be honest. I rarely come to places like this. Sam froze. His lips moved, and his expression grew even darker. He threw down the menu and left. I looked at the cold, empty seat across from me and took out my phone. I counted the digits in my bank account balance, and my mood immediately brightened. I dutifully sent him a message. I'm sorry. If I did something wrong, please let me know. I'll be more careful next time. As a result, he seemed even angrier. He didn't come to pick me up after work that night. Chapter 14. I wasn't sure if Sam was still angry or if he was away on a business trip. Morning and night, I didn't see any trace of him. One night, half asleep, I felt someone gritting their teeth beside my ear. Where's your 30 million? If it wasn't enough, why didn't you ask for more back then? I opened my eyes, and the room was empty. It was probably just a dream. With Sam gone, there was still a driver to pick me up every day, but that didn't stop those who wanted to see me from finding a way to do so. During lunch break that day, my boss nervously came over to my desk, said someone was looking for me outside. I went out and saw a familiar face. Chapter 15. The Old Sam Family Residence. After several years, Sam's grandpa was still in good spirits. He sat at the tea table and personally poured me a cup of tea, smiling. "Miss Miriam, what does this mean?" I knew I couldn't hide it from him. I didn't touch the tea. I took the money, so I must do the job. I said softly, "Sir, it's the same story as 3 years ago. Only now, the employer has become Mr. Sam. You know me. I'm someone who is motivated by money. Even if Mr. Sam is holding a gun to my head now, no one forced me back then. I would have done anything for 30 million, wouldn't I?" Chapter 16. Actually, the Sam family didn't come to me first. The real Celine was their first choice. At that time, my father had been dead for 2 years, and our family was deep in debt. Sam's grandpa offered Celine a deal, pay off her family's debts, plus 3 million. Celine didn't even hesitate and refused immediately. "You are toying with people's emotions. I would rather die than do something like this." I thought she was crazy. Is love more important than life? We had just reconnected as sisters, and we almost had a falling out over this. She tried to persuade me earnestly. "Miriam, as a person, you must understand propriety, justice, integrity, and honor. These are things Mom never got the chance to teach you. Dad never got the chance to teach you. So your sister will teach you." I didn't listen. 3 million, enough to feed countless homeless children for years. "If you won't go, I will." I went to see Sam's grandpa. Stubbornly, "My sister's health isn't good. 30 million. I'll go instead of her." Then I pressured Celine. "I've already signed the agreement. And you know the Sam family has power everywhere. If you don't help me, just pretend you never found this sister of yours. If I end up underground, I won't blame you in front of Mom and Dad." Chapter 17. Maybe I really don't understand propriety, justice, integrity, and honor. I didn't think it was such a shameful thing. On the contrary, when I first approached Sam, I felt a kind of resentment. Young, a prestigious graduate, leaving a huge family business unattended, letting distant relatives turn the company into a mess, and running off to these deep mountains to practice Buddhism? Ridiculous. Sam's grandpa is getting on in years. He won't live much longer. Sam's grandpa still smiled as he took a sip of tea. "Miss Miriam is a smart person. You know what I'm worried about." I lowered my eyes and smiled slightly as well. "Don't worry. I won't let Mr. Sam find out that I was the one from back then, and he won't fall out with you because of it." The only promise I made to Mr. Sam was to stop this improper relationship before his marriage. I pressed my lips together. It won't affect his marriage to Lisa. The marriage between the two families was all the rage. There had already been rumors that they were actually engaged. Sam's grandpa paused, his hand holding the teacup, and looked at me. He seemed to want to see through the truth in my words. I smiled even more faintly. "Sir, I know my place. I'm not worthy of Mr. Sam. I can't enter your family's door. I'm very clear on that. Someone suitable for Sam, even if not a wealthy heiress like Lisa, should be a modest and like-minded girl like Celine. I'm not worthy." Chapter 18. Coming out of the old Sam family residence. I wasn't particularly happy. It was only after I went to the bank and transferred some money out that I felt cheerful again. Just as I stepped out of the bank, Ethan's call came through. "My dear, where did you get all that money again? Be honest. You really haven't done anything illegal, have you?" I said no. He still went on and on. "Did you forget the lesson from last time? I still don't know what you were doing for over a year. You made money, but when you came back, you were sick for half a year. You can't choose money over your life. Miriam, are you listening to your uncle?" I'm listening. I replied as I took a cab to the company. "It's just a few more months. Enjoy it while it lasts." That night, Sam came back. Chapter 19. He came back very late. I was already half asleep when I heard noises downstairs. He must have been on a business trip. I heard the sound of his suitcase. After dozing off again for a while, I realized he had entered the room. I thought he would just look around like always and then leave. To my surprise, he lifted the blanket and lay down. My back instinctively tensed. "I won't touch you." His voice was a bit hoarse, sounding very tired. Actually, I wasn't nervous about his proximity. On the contrary, the scent of sandalwood on him made me feel at ease. "It's just, did you go to the old residence today?" What did he say? Just warned me not to have unrealistic expectations. Ignore him. Oh, as if I could even afford unrealistic expectations. I turned over and went back to sleep. Sam spoke again. "Why did you give Ethan so much money?" I froze. He explained, "The people keeping an eye on Ethan forgot to withdraw." "Couldn't you find out?" "I want to hear it from you." "Oh, it wasn't really a secret. You know, I grew up in an orphanage. The family that bought me eventually had their own child, so they left me at the orphanage door. I want to invest in orphanages, welfare homes, things like that." Sam was silent for a moment. He can't handle that much money. I also fell silent. I knew that. Of course. Back then, the 30 million, some was spent on Celine's treatment. The rest was invested in the orphanage. But we weren't good at management, nor at making the money grow. The orphanage only had expenses and no income. And the money was spent quickly. "Quit your job." "I'll find a professional manager to guide you." I instantly perked up. "Really?" Chapter 20. Sam and I clearly hadn't had a fight, but it also felt like we had fought and then made up. And we quickly found a new way to get along. He really did find an incredibly capable manager for us. I stopped working, so he no longer drove me to and from work. Instead, he gave me his evenings. It's kind of strange, to be honest. Other people's canaries live extravagant, indulgent lives with their benefactors. But I study with my benefactor. During the day, the manager trains me. And in the evenings, the business genius tutors me personally. It feels like I'm getting a dual MBA, and I'm improving rapidly. After that night, Sam moved into my room, but nothing happened between us, which, honestly, makes sense. The intimidating big shot is, at his core, still a monk with no desires. The relationship between us somehow became much more comfortable. I didn't have the energy to go out of my way to please him. And he, in turn, stopped being moody. He actually seemed to enjoy tutoring me. 30 million a month to support a student? Impressive. The only problem is, I quite enjoy his tutoring too. The way he analyzes problems is really attractive. Even more attractive than when he used to copy scriptures back then. Those deep eyes, like a pool of water, as if they could drown you. Luckily, every time I got lost in thought, he'd snap me back to reality with a light slap. He's really a strict benefactor. Busy days always pass quickly. As work was coming to an end today, I received a message from Sam. "Come home early tonight." Chapter 21. My proper mentor is named Luis. In his 40s, exceptionally sharp. The moment he saw the smile on my face, he asked, "Sam, go on. I'll take care of things here." Even though I felt a little embarrassed, I still left early. I thought Sam had something important to discuss, but it turned out he just wanted to take me out for dinner. He rarely took me to fancy restaurants anymore. Even when we went, he would thoughtfully order the food for me in advance. But this simple, affordable restaurant was an even rarer occasion. I mentioned this place to you before. Remember? When Sam and I talked about the orphanage, we couldn't help but mention the old days. Back then, a group of kids would cling to the fence, eagerly looking at the world outside. The occasional smell of delicious food was the most tempting dream in those days. After dinner, Sam took me out for cake. Happy birthday. He lit a birthday candle for me. The birthday cake had Miriam written on it. After finishing the cake, he took me to the mountaintop, asking me to make a wish when a shooting star passed by. Then he took me to set off fireworks. In the pitch-black night, fireworks burst into blossoms. I had never been this happy. I had never celebrated a birthday like this. I used to not even know when my birthday was. The only time I celebrated my actual birthday was deep in the mountains. Back then, it was just to make my presence known in front of Sam, and the cake even had Celine written on it. Sam held my hand the whole time. When the early autumn night breeze blew in, he suddenly pulled me into his arms. Miriam. The fireworks illuminated the side of his face. At some point, he had become more and more gentle, more and more captivating. Kiss me. I looked at his lips. So close. Half a year ago, in the private room at the bar, I knew very clearly that I was Miriam. Miriam had nothing to do with Sam. But now, I looked at those lips, and with almost no hesitation, I kissed him. Sam trembled slightly, holding my face. He kissed me back even more passionately. Chapter 22. I think I'm in love. I can't help wanting to be with Sam all the time, kissing him and never wanting to let go. I don't want to think about whether, in Sam's eyes, I'm Celine or Miriam. After all, the name on that cake was Miriam, right? September arrived in no time. This is an important month for me. Some of the orphanages I invested in before were purchased and then restructured. This month, the orphanage I personally built is about to be unveiled. I specifically chose the Mid-Autumn Festival for the unveiling, a day for family reunions, to give the children a home. As I was leaving, Sam held me at the entryway and kissed me for a long time. Are you sure you don't want me to go? My breath was a bit ragged, and I just shook my head. We've been seen together a lot lately, and the media almost caught on. Then dinner together tonight? One more kiss? By the time I got in the car, my cheeks were flushed red. It took a long time for the cool breeze to calm me down. The unveiling ceremony went smoothly, though it rained for a while. It quickly stopped. There was even a rainbow in the sky, a very good omen. At the end, I was supposed to have a meal with everyone, but someone came looking for me. Chapter 23. I knew why Sam's grandpa was looking for me again. Sam and Lisa's marriage talks had fallen through. After that, Sam's grandpa arranged for Sam to meet several other young ladies, but he refused them all. This wasn't something I could control. I walked into the old Sam family residence calmly, but I forgot that Sam's grandpa had held the reins of the family for decades, and even today, he hadn't fully handed over power to Sam. How could he be an easy person to deal with? When I came out of the old residence, my whole body was trembling. Sam's grandpa's smiling voice echoed in my ears. Miss Miriam, now that you have both love and career success, you should indeed be happy. You're young, and it's hard to resist temptation. I understand, but you shouldn't forget why you insisted on personally throwing money into that bottomless pit of an orphanage without expecting anything in return. My hands trembled as I opened my phone. I wanted to press delete, but it was a video sent from the other side. There was no way to delete it. I tried to delete the chat history. Instead, I accidentally touched the play button. The sharp cries of a young girl and a man's reckless laughter suddenly filled my ears. I frantically pressed the phone to stop it, unable to control myself. I squatted down, tears falling in big drops. It was nothing more than a beautiful dream. I'm not Celine, no matter how much I wish. I'm not the child who was never abducted. Chapter 24. I tried hard to tell myself it didn't matter. It was all in the past. It wasn't my fault. I had listened to Sam recite many Buddhist scriptures. I had copied many of those scriptures with him. Every word spoke of letting go. When Sam asked me what Sam's grandpa wanted with me again, I could still pretend nothing was wrong and say the usual stuff. I still read books beside him, asking him about things I didn't understand. I still went out early and returned late, joking and laughing with him. I still kissed him passionately, but I knew I couldn't let go. My nerves were constantly on edge. I was afraid of Sam's phone ringing, afraid of him having to return to the old residence, afraid of him even looking at his phone. Finally, one day, when he picked up his phone like any other time to check a message, as soon as I saw him frown, I instinctively rushed forward and knocked the phone out of his hand. The screen shattered into pieces on the floor. Just like my fragile sense of dignity, I knew it was time for my dream to end. Chapter 25. I called Sam's grandpa, handed over my documents and let his people handle my visa. I made excuses that I wanted to take a break and temporarily handed over the orphanage I had been managing. Then I arranged a few more meals with Amanda. I didn't even tell Amanda. As for Sam, I had long been used to acting in front of him. Pretending everything was fine wasn't hard. On the day I left the bank card and password in the room. There was still half of the balance left. The remaining half could be considered his donation to the children. I packed up all my things, restoring the room to its original state. There wasn't much else. Oh, I took my notes from these days, and the sketches he drew for me, as I went downstairs. The maid watched me carry my suitcase down step by step. She had been with the Sam family for many years. Seeing her calm gaze, I suddenly realized she was one of Sam's grandpa's people. Fine. I didn't need to explain anything to her. But just as I reached the door, she suddenly called out to me, "Miss Miriam, could I talk to you for a moment?" Chapter 26. She rarely spoke. Most of the time, she just did her work quietly. After I sat down, she seemed a bit nervous too. "Miss Miriam, do you know why Mr. Sam went up the mountain to practice?" I shook my head. Sam's grandpa hadn't told me much. In the beginning, I even mocked him for being crazy. The maid nervously pinched her fingers and took a deep breath. And then, from her mouth, I heard a full-blown saga of a wealthy family's ethical drama. Chapter 27. As the eldest son and grandson of the family, Sam had been cherished and held in high regard from the moment he was born. He lived up to the expectations. In everything he did, he excelled beyond the ordinary. But his father was not the same. Indulgent and wayward. Ever since his mother married into the family, his father had never been without other women. When Sam was 7, his mother took him along to catch his father in bed with her younger sister. By the time Sam was 10, the whole family knew about his father playing games with 2 maids in the bedroom. When Sam was 15, his father had already stopped coming home. His mother never cried or made a scene. She focused on raising him and managing the household affairs. Everyone said the eldest son was frivolous and dissolute, while the eldest daughter-in-law was graceful and wise, an exemplar of nobility. But during a critical moment of family power transition, an uncle stepped forward, claiming that Sam was not truly the son of the main family line. Sam's mother firmly denied it, yet she also refused to take Sam for a paternity test. In the end, she used her death to make a statement. It was Sam who found her body. Bright red blood filled the entire bathtub, but Sam's father still took him for a paternity test. No one dared approach the council hall that night. All they heard was the eldest son's furious roar, "You are shameless." He entered the hall upright and left lying down. On the way to the hospital, he passed away. That night in the council hall, there were only 3 people, the eldest son, Sam, and Sam's grandpa. After that, Sam left. He said he carried sin. Original sin. "Miss Miriam, you don't know what kind of life Mr. Sam had growing up." The maid wiped her tears as she spoke. "There are no born prodigies. Such a young child. All he wanted was for his father to come home more often, to look at him and his mother even a little. But it ended up like this. And what fault did he have in it?" She held my hand. "Miss Miriam, I know Sam's grandpa is driving you away, but in all these years, I've only seen Mr. Sam this happy recently. Mr. Sam searched the world for you for 3 years. I recognized you the moment you arrived. For 3 years. Mr. Sam drew a picture of you every day. You used to have a tear mole in the corner of your eye, right? A month before you returned, Mr. Sam, for some reason, lost his temper. He burned all those drawings, smashed more than half of the furniture in the house. Miss, I don't know what Sam's grandpa used to make you leave, but could you talk to Mr. Sam about it? His whole heart is filled with you." Chapter 28. I sat in the taxi, my mind in turmoil. At one moment, it was the maid's words. At another, it was Sam's grandpa's threats. I had clearly already made up my mind. I couldn't bear for Sam to see the ugliness of my past. I couldn't allow Sam's grandpa to take more extreme actions. I couldn't stay with Sam any longer. He was a pure, innocent monk. I had already pulled him into the mundane world, and I couldn't let him sink into the mire. After all, the person with the tear mole wasn't me. After all, the one he truly loved was Celine. If I left, he wouldn't be sad. But the maid was right. What did he do wrong? What did I do wrong? Why were we being dragged into this? Forced to bear the sins of adults? Was I leaving because I feared the video being exposed? Or was it because of the deep-rooted inferiority I felt? What else did the maid say? A month before you returned, Mr. Sam, for some reason, lost his temper. He burned all those drawings, smashed more than half of the furniture in the house. Why did he lose his temper? Why did he burn the drawings? For 3 years, Mr. Sam drew a picture of you every day. You used to have a tear mole in the corner of your eye, right? Because he realized he was drawing the wrong person? Because he realized, from beginning to end, it was me? Come here, kiss me, Miriam, kiss me. I asked what you wanted to eat. Where's the 30 million? Didn't you ask for enough back then? My scalp tingled. So, did Sam recognize me from the start? Did he never see me as Celine? Driver, please turn around. I'm not going to the airport. With trembling hands, I pulled out my phone, just about to make a call when the screen lit up. Miriam, where are you trying to go again? Before I could speak, Sam's voice, filled with anger, came through. Miriam, you left me once, and now you want to leave me again. Is that it? Miriam, if you dare to leave, Ethan can say goodbye to his life. Sam, bang. Chapter 29. There's a car accident up ahead. Can't move. Young lady, there's nothing you can do, even if you're in a hurry. Could I borrow your phone, please? As soon as I said it, I realized I hadn't memorized Sam's number. The impact just now was too strong. My hands were sweaty, and my phone flew away and went black. I pressed my phone a few more times. Still no response. Sam isn't one to act rashly. I'll go back later and talk to him face to face. It will be the same. I tried to comfort myself, but the accident ahead seemed serious. With smoke and flames visible, I felt restless in the car. After a while, there was a commotion up front. I couldn't sit still any longer. I got out of the car, planning to walk around the scene, and then I saw a familiar figure ahead. I had never seen Sam look so panicked. He was always the calm one, but now, his entire face was ashen. It seemed like he couldn't see or hear anything. He was just fixated on the accident scene, trying to rush in, heedless of everything. People were trying to hold him back, but not many could stop him. When I disappeared suddenly back then, was he this desperate, this lost? Or even worse? Sam! I called out to him loudly. He looked over, his eyes instantly turning red. Chapter 30. The moment the door closed, Sam bit down forcefully. I shouldn't have been so gentle with you. I should have built a cage and locked you in. Running away again. Where are you planning to run this time? For how many years? He roughly tore my clothes. Not interested in people. Not interested in money either? Was it all an act? All these days? Was it all just an act? It's a pity you don't pursue acting as a career. He pulled his belt off and bound my hands. Don't forget, you still owe me a child. Weren't you pregnant? Where's the child? Just because I haven't touched you, you think you don't have to pay up? He pushed me down onto the bed, pressed his body against mine. I didn't really resist, but his movements still slowed down. He buried his head in the crook of my neck, his voice choked and hoarse. Miriam, what kind do you like? I can change. You can't just come into my life and then, I like you just the way you are. I cut him off. Sam paused, then grabbed my chin with a hateful grip, trying to fool me again. Suddenly, I wanted to cry. Why didn't you tell me you recognized me from the beginning? You were so cold-hearted. You only wanted money. If I told you, you'd just run away scared. Wouldn't you? Weren't you in love with Celine? I loved Celine when you were pretending to be Celine. Sam squeezed harder. I only exchanged a few letters with her. Miriam, do you think my love is that shallow? Was that really it? For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He thought I had no feelings for him. I thought he had always loved Celine. Both of us, caught in this uncertainty, guessing each other's feelings, approaching in the way we thought the other would accept. In the end, tears won. They flowed down my cheeks. The moon I thought was unattainable had already bent down for me. A small blade of grass. Sam looked away. I won't touch you. Don't cry. My hands hurt. He unbuckled his belt. I hugged him. Didn't I owe you a child? I kissed him. Let's have it. Chapter 31. Sam and I went back to the old residence. Sam went to see Sam's grandpa, and I waited outside. I don't know what they talked about. I only heard 3 gunshots. Scaring a flock of birds from a tree, Sam came out with a grim face, took my hand, and we left. After that, he took me to the prison, again. I didn't go inside. He came out with an air of blood about him. I didn't ask, but he understood the question in my eyes. Don't worry. For someone like him, beating him to death would be too merciful. Sam hired a lawyer and wanted to prosecute that person again. Somehow, Sam's grandpa had obtained those videos. 3 years ago, when we tried to accuse him, we couldn't find any evidence and could only send him to prison for financial issues. In less than half a month, a 15-year-old child abuse case went viral online. The perpetrator was the director of the orphanage. Using his position, he had abused nearly 100 children. The living conditions of marginalized groups in orphanages and welfare homes received attention. In this society, many people, institutions, and enterprises enjoy doing charity work, but you never know if, in the unseen dark corners, what grows is goodness or evil. Chapter 32. In the spring, Sam and I quietly registered our marriage. I took him to see my mom and dad, and we also went to visit Celine's grave. Actually, Celine's illness had shown signs before I went up the mountain, but at that time, the family had no backbone, and we were deep in debt, so she couldn't afford to take care of herself. I also took him to have dinner with Ethan and Amanda. Ethan was a security guard at the orphanage back then. He was the one who, after noticing something wrong, stood in front of me time and time again to protect me. He said he would be my uncle, so I took his last name. Amanda, on the other hand, was a close relative of Sam's family. Back then, she helped me devise various plans to conquer Sam. I never dared to let Sam know how well I knew her. Less than 3 months after getting married, I was really pregnant. Now I wasn't just the orphanage mom to the children. I was going to be a real mom. While setting up the nursery, I accidentally found the pregnancy report I had left all those years ago in Sam's room. The handwriting had long since faded, and the edges were worn, but it was still carefully placed in the top drawer of the nightstand, like a treasure. That night, before going to sleep, I kissed him endlessly, softly whispered in his ear, apologizing, I'm sorry. I love you. Extra. Chapter 1. Sam noticed that lately, there seemed to be a young girl following him around. She looked somewhat familiar. It felt like he had seen her somewhere before, but he couldn't remember, and he didn't make an effort to recall. He had been living in the monastery, seeking peace, and didn't want to think too much about worldly matters anymore. Chapter 2. Until one day, he saw the girl asking a monk to write a prayer ribbon. Celine. She almost deliberately said the name louder. He remembered. In high school, there had been a junior who once wrote him letters, asking for study advice. He found her letters interesting, and they had exchanged a few. She had sent him a photo. The girl in front of him looked just like that photo, a tear mole at the corner of her eye, and the same name, Celine, but he didn't intend to pay her any attention. He had renounced his family, let alone a pen pal. Chapter 3. But she approached him. Sam, don't you remember me? He was about to say he didn't remember when her eyes reddened. I'm here to pray for my parents, and I'll be staying here for a while. He remembered her mother had passed away when she was young. Her father had died a couple of years ago. He nodded and walked around her. Chapter 4. She often appeared in front of him. It made him wonder if she had ulterior motives. But she didn't do anything inappropriate. She asked if he still had ink and paper, and that she could bring it for him when she went down the mountain. She asked if he had anything he wanted to eat. She was good at cooking and could make something for them to share. He refused each time, and she stopped offering. Chapter 5. This went on for 3 months. One day, she suddenly fell down the steps. He passed by. She accidentally fell into a puddle. He passed by. She carried 2 buckets of water in her hands. He passed by. One day, she accidentally scattered papers in front of him. He walked around the papers. That afternoon, he stumbled upon a strange sight. The usually gentle girl, who spoke so softly, was pointing at a scarecrow on the back hill, yelling, "I made it so obvious, and you still can't see it? Are you blind? What do you think this girl means? You really can't tell? The girl likes you. Look at you. Instead of living a good life, why did you come up to this mountain to seek some sort of retreat? Do you know how big your family's business is? Do you know that group of people is currently fighting amongst themselves? Do you know how many employees would lose their jobs if things went wrong? You studied so much, and yet you don't even have this basic sense of social responsibility? This isn't a retreat at all. It's just escape." At first, he found it funny, but as she went on, he couldn't laugh anymore. He even turned and walked away. He was running away. He couldn't believe a young girl had managed to hit his sore spot. Chapter 6. After that, he simply avoided her whenever he saw her. It seemed like she didn't notice his attitude. One evening, she knocked on his door again. "Today is my birthday. I don't want to eat cake alone. Would you join me?" Adding, "I made it myself, with no cream." And another, "After my dad passed away, I've been eating cake alone for 2 years." Seeing her slightly red eyes, he couldn't bring himself to refuse. While eating cake, she asked why he always went to the mountain top late at night. He casually replied that the stars were brighter at the top, which gave her another opportunity. She somehow found some thorny dry vines sitting in front of his house. She said she wanted to make a string of star-shaped lights for him. "This way, you can always see the brightest stars." She spoke softly, but there was a mischievous glint in her eyes. Sure enough, halfway through making it, there was a constant ouch and ouch. Helpless, he could only sit down and help her. She tried to talk to him again. He kept silent. He didn't want to give her any more chances. But the last chance, he handed to her himself. Chapter 7. It was the day she came to hang the starlights. He happened to be copying scriptures. She instinctively stopped when she walked by. "Your calligraphy is so beautiful." She stood there watching him write. Her face was full of admiration. She even forgot she was supposed to hang the lights. "Do you want to learn?" She had been watching for quite a while, and he casually asked. Her face lit up immediately. "Would you teach me?" When someone truly loves something, their eyes do not lie. Faced with such sincere enthusiasm, he couldn't refuse. And just like that, he opened a small crack himself, a crack that allowed her into his life. By the time he realized it, she was everywhere, in his sight, in his heart.